You know the titans of American automotive history, right? We're talking about the roaring muscle cars that defined entire generations, the incredibly dependable family sedans from the big three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler that seem to populate every driveway across the nation.
Oh yeah, the ones everyone remembers, the Mustangs, the Bel Airs, the Roadrunners,
Well,
icons.
exactly. But what if we told you there's a whole other richer chapter to that story, a hidden history, absolutely filled with vehicles so visionary, so daring, so fundamentally different, they were literally years, even decades ahead of their time?
Intriguing. Like ghosts in the machine of American car history?
Sort of. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into unsung American automotive legends. Our mission is to explore three truly incredible cars that dared to challenge the status quo, not just in aesthetics, but in fundamental design, groundbreaking technology, and even safety.
Okay, I'm with you. These aren't just like oddball footnotes then.
Not at all. These aren't just fascinating stories for the sheer novelty of it. They're a powerful reminder that true innovation often springs forth from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, perhaps more often than we realize, the market isn't quite ready to embrace sheer genius.
Right, the whole ahead of its time problem. Happens more than you'd think.
We're going to unpack why these groundbreaking machines never quite hit the mainstream, yet despite that, left an indelible mark on automotive history and beyond.
So what made them tick and what ultimately held them back?
Precisely. So, get ready. We're going to look at exactly what made these cars so revolutionary, the powerful forces they battled against, and why, despite their commercial struggles, they remain legendary figures in the annals of American ingenuity.
Sounds good. I expect some surprises.
Prepare yourselves for some surprising facts, and I promise you, more than a few aha moments about the forgotten road warriors of American car history.
All right, let's dig in.
Okay, so when most of us think about American automotive history, a very specific image comes to mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Detroit assembly lines, chrome fins, V8 engines rumbling.
Exactly. We picture the bustling assembly lines of Detroit, the gleaming chrome of a '57 Chevy, or the raw, undeniable power of a Mustang rumbling down a highway. It's a narrative steeped in the dominance of the big three and their iconic models.
It's a compelling story, no doubt. Mass production, market dominance, cars that became part of the cultural fabric. You can't deny that.
It is compelling, and it painted a powerful picture of America's industrial might and cultural impact. But what we're going to uncover today is that it only tells part of a much richer, more complex story.
Okay, so there's more beneath the surface of the usual narrative.
Absolutely. Our deep dive is specifically designed to take us beyond that familiar narrative, to peel back the layers and reveal a hidden history populated by genuinely visionary designers and incredibly brave independent automakers.
The independents, the
Well,
challengers.
these weren't the corporate giants. They were often the Davids, daring to challenge the Goliath of the established auto industry. They were pushing the boundaries, trying something radically different, and often paying a steep price for that audacity.
Yeah, going up against Ford, GM, Chrysler. That took guts. Or maybe just a different kind of thinking.
Exactly. And that brings us to the core of what we mean by unsung legends. We're not talking about cars that sold millions of units or that every kid had a toy version of.
Right, not the household names necessarily.
These weren't necessarily commercial successes in the traditional sense, but they are legends because they pushed boundaries in design, technology, and safety in ways that were truly unprecedented for their time.
So it's about the innovation, the forward thinking, even if the sales charts didn't reflect it immediately.
Precisely. What makes them so compelling is that they were often years ahead of their time. They were laying groundwork, sometimes unwittingly, that the industry wouldn't fully understand, appreciate, or adopt until much, much later. They were pioneers in an era that wasn't quite ready for their vision.
Kind of like planting seeds that someone else harvests later.
That's a great way to put it. The appeal of these forgotten stories is immense, and they are indeed as fascinating as their unique forms. They embody a spirit of pure experimentation and defiance against the norm.
It's about individuals and smaller companies who simply refuse to accept the status quo, convinced they could build a better, safer, or maybe just more interesting car.
Their struggles, their soaring ambitions, and their often tragic ultimate fates make for incredibly compelling narratives, revealing the true grit and ingenuity that often gets lost when we only focus on the biggest players.
Yeah, the human story behind the metal. The belief that just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it shouldn't be tried.
So why should you, our listener, care about these forgotten vehicles?
Good question. Beyond just cool car facts, what's the takeaway?
Well, because understanding their stories offers a far richer, more nuanced view of innovation, entrepreneurship, and sheer resilience in the face of immense pressure. It's not just about what sold the most, it's about what dared to dream big, what attempted to redefine the rules of an entire industry.
So it's about the process of innovation itself, the challenges, the risks.
Exactly. These tales are a testament to the power of human imagination, a reminder that progress isn't always linear or neatly packaged. It often comes in fits and starts, driven by individuals willing to risk everything.
They show us that sometimes the true measure of innovation isn't immediate market success, but rather the foresight to plant seeds that will only blossom decades later. It changes how you look at failure, maybe.
Definitely. Okay, let's unpack this with our first legend, the Tucker 48. This car instantly evokes a sense of both awe and, frankly, tragedy, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, the Tucker, the car of tomorrow. Even the name sounds ambitious. It's almost mythical.
It is. It's famously known as the Tin Goose prototype, and its very existence was the brainchild of Preston Tucker, an ambitious and charismatic entrepreneur with an almost messianic vision.
He wasn't just trying to build a car, he was trying to build a statement, something fundamentally different.
He wasn't just setting out to build another car, he was building a rolling promise of a new era for American automobiles, a vehicle designed from the ground up to redefine safety and performance for the masses.
And the timing, right after World War II, that was key.
Absolutely. What's crucial to understand about the Tucker 48 is the post-WWII context in which it emerged. The country was experiencing an economic boom, servicemen were returning home, families were growing, and people were eager for new things, new homes, new appliances, and certainly new cars.
A huge pent-up demand.
Yeah,
But the big three were just rolling out warmed-over pre-war designs, weren't they?
pretty much. The automotive landscape was ripe for innovation, but it was also firmly dominated by an incredibly entrenched industry. The Big Three had effectively put a freeze on new car designs during the war, meaning that when peace arrived, they largely resumed production of pre-war models. Tucker saw this as a golden opportunity.
A chance to leapfrog the competition.
His vision, however, was a radical departure from what the competition was doing because he prioritized safety and innovation above all else. He wasn't just offering a slightly better car, he was offering a fundamentally different car, built for a new age.
And that focus on safety, that was really unusual for the time, wasn't it? Cars were beautiful, powerful maybe, but safety wasn't top of mind for most manufacturers.
Not like this. This immediately set the stage for conflict with the established order.
Okay, so let's talk specifics. What were these engineering marvels? The stuff that made it so different?
Well, one of the most famous and truly revolutionary was that swiveling third headlight.
Ah, yes, the Cyclops eye centered on the front.
Imagine this. A central headlamp that actually turned with the steering wheel, actively illuminating around corners at night.
That's brilliant. Simple concept, but think about driving on dark, curvy roads back then. That would make a huge difference.
It wasn't just a gimmick. It directly addressed a critical safety issue of the era: limited visibility on winding roads. It's a feature we still marvel at today for its foresight, and he was putting it into production over 70 years ago.
Incredible. And that wasn't the only safety innovation, right?
Not by a long shot. That was just the tip of the iceberg in his safety-first approach. Beyond the headlight, the Tucker 48 was one of the first cars to incorporate features that we now take for granted as standard safety equipment.
Like what?
It had a padded dashboard, for instance, made of an energy-absorbing material, and a sturdy roll cage built into the roof.
A padded dash. And a roll cage. In a production car in the late 40s. That's wild. Most dashboards are just painted steel, hard as rock.
Exactly. These were not just revolutionary concepts. They were designed to actively protect occupants in a crash, a stark contrast to the hard, unyielding interiors of most contemporary cars. But perhaps even more remarkably, it featured a dedicated safety chamber.
The safety chamber, what was that?
This was a space in the footwell, completely clear, no protruding controls, where the front passenger could literally duck down for protection in an imminent collision.
Wow, that's thinking way outside the box.
Uh-huh.
A proactive crash safety feature. Unheard of.
It truly was a proactive approach to crashworthiness that was utterly unheard of in its day. It wasn't just about surviving the impact, it was about mitigating the injuries before impact.
Amazing foresight. And the engine placement was different too, wasn't it? Rear-mounted.
Yes. And the engine itself is also a radical choice for a passenger car.
Right, it was originally for helicopters.
Absolutely. He started with a modified Franklin O335 helicopter engine mounted in the rear. Now, this wasn't just a quirky choice. These air-cooled, lightweight aircraft engines, often configured as a flat six for a low profile.
Like a Porsche or a Subaru.
Precisely. It gave the Tucker a remarkably low center of gravity, significantly improving handling and stability compared to traditional front-engine cars. Their air cooling also contributed to a quieter cabin than many water-cooled engines of the era, adding to the car's luxurious feel.
So better handling, quieter ride.
Yeah.
Plus, a rear engine usually means more interior space up front.
Correct. The entire aerodynamic design, with its powerful flat-six engine pushing it from the rear and its sleek fastback body style, made the Tucker 48 incredibly aerodynamic for its time.
Yeah, it looks slippery. Very different from the upright boxes most cars were then.
This wasn't merely for aesthetics. It hinted at efficiency and performance that was equally ahead of the curve, especially considering the relatively heavy steel body.
Okay, so revolutionary safety, innovative engine, great design. It sounds like a winner. So what went wrong? Here's where the tragedy part comes in, I guess.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and frankly heartbreaking. The tragic downfall of the Tucker 48. With all that innovation and forward-thinking design, it sounds like the Tucker was destined for greatness. But then, as we know, the story takes a tragic turn.
The establishment strikes back.
Well, it sounds almost like a conspiracy theory, but the sources indicate that its revolutionary design and aggressive marketing campaign drew the ire of Detroit's automotive establishment and powerful political forces.
You can almost picture the boardrooms of the Big Three simmering with a potent mix of resentment and fear as this charismatic outsider threatened their long-held way of doing business, especially with his focus on safety features they had yet to adopt.
They saw him not just as competition, but as a disruptive force that could fundamentally alter their production lines and profit margins. He was making them look bad, frankly, on safety.
And they had friends in high places, presumably. So how did they fight back?
And the nature of that resistance is truly fascinating in a grim way. Preston Tucker was relentlessly targeted by the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, the primary government body overseeing financial markets, on charges of stock fraud.
The money angle. Accusations of financial impropriety. That's a classic way to bring someone down.
And crucially, the sources indicate that many believe these charges were politically motivated. We have to be careful here. It's what many believe according to the source material.
Right. Not definitively proven, but the suspicion is strong that it wasn't just a routine investigation.
The idea is this wasn't necessarily about the product itself being flawed or even about genuine fraud, but rather a concerted, powerful effort to undermine the company and its charismatic leader through legal means.
It paints a picture of a system unwilling to tolerate such a disruptive force, especially one that challenged their established safety standards and market dominance. Essentially, how dare you make us look bad or force us to change?
And even though Tucker was eventually acquitted on all counts after a lengthy trial,
he won the case. So why didn't the company survive?
the damage was already done. The lengthy and highly publicized legal battle drained the company's resources and destroyed its reputation. Legal fees, bad press, delays.
Yeah, mud sticks. Even if you're cleared, the fight itself can kill you. It choked off funding, scared suppliers, spooked dealers.
It effectively choked off the company's ability to produce and market the car, even though the allegations were proven baseless. The public's trust, once so enthusiastically given, had been eroded by the constant barrage of negative headlines.
So how many actually got made in the end?
The outcome is stark and truly lamentable. Only 51 cars were ever built, including the prototype.
51. Wow. That solidifies the Tucker 48 status as one of the rarest and most legendary American automobiles, a real what-if story.
Absolutely. And the biggest lesson for innovators today from Tucker's battle is profound. Its failure wasn't due to a flawed product, but rather to the fierce resistance it met from a system unwilling to embrace change.
It's a stark reminder that even the most revolutionary product can be derailed not by its own technical flaws, but by the inertia of established power and the tactics used to protect it.
Tucker's struggle highlights that true disruption often faces a systemic battle, forcing us to consider how much risk we're willing to take challenging the status quo, and whether the market or the industry is truly ready to accept that challenge.
A sobering thought for any entrepreneur trying to shake things up. Okay, where do we go next? Another tale of ambition versus reality.
Our next unsung legend takes us to a different kind of struggle, one where a company was fighting not against a new disruptive force, but for its very survival. We're talking about the Studebaker Avanti, introduced in 1962.
Ah, the Avanti. Now that's a car with some serious style. But yeah, Studebaker was in trouble by then.
Deep trouble. This car stands as a poignant testament to the dying gasp of a once great American automaker. By the early 60s, Studebaker, an automotive pioneer with a history dating back to horse-drawn wagons,
Yeah, they were one of the originals.
was facing stiff competition and financial ruin from the relentless march of the Big Three. It was a desperate time for a company that had once been a pillar of American industry, known for its innovative designs like the bullet-nosed Studebaker of the late 40s.
They had some cool stuff, but just couldn't keep up with the scale and resources of GM, Ford, and Chrysler by the 60s.
Indeed. In this dire situation, Studebaker's president, Sherwood Egbert, made what could only be described as a desperate but incredibly bold Hail Mary pass.
Okay, what was the play?
He commissioned the renowned industrial designer Raymond Loewy.
The guy who designed the Coke bottle, the Lucky Strike package, famous locomotives. A design legend.
That's the one. Egbert commissioned Loewy to create what's known as a halo car, essentially a flagship model designed not just for sales volume, but to elevate the entire brand's image, signaling innovation and a bold new direction for Studebaker.
Right, a car to get people talking about Studebaker again, hopefully in a good way.
Yeah.
Generate some excitement.
This wasn't just about selling a few cars. It was about inspiring confidence, capturing headlines, and hopefully injecting new life into a struggling company.
And they needed it fast, right?
And the speed of design here is just astonishing, truly mind-boggling, especially for a project of this magnitude. Loewy and his small team, working in a rented Palm Springs house,
Palm Springs, nice. Good place for inspiration.
delivered a design in just 40 days that was a complete break from convention.
40 days! You're kidding. For a whole car design.
40 days, that's barely enough time to settle on a color palette for some projects, let alone a groundbreaking automotive design from scratch.
That's insane. And the result was, well, it was stunning.
The brilliance of that form is evident in its groundbreaking styling. It was a sleek, aerodynamic sports coupe with a distinctive no-grill front end, a radical departure for the era, giving it this futuristic, almost menacing look.
Yeah, that smooth, slightly wedge-shaped nose was totally different. And the Coke bottle shape in the sides. It simply didn't look like anything else on the road at the time, clearly designed to turn heads and challenge perceptions.
And that striking appearance was achieved through some very clever material innovation. The Avanti's body was made of lightweight fiberglass.
Like the Corvette, but still pretty unusual for a production car back then, especially from a company like Studebaker.
It was a bold choice for a mass-produced car in 1962. This wasn't just a minor detail, it offered significant advantages. It was inherently rust-proof, which was a major selling point in an era when steel bodies were notoriously prone to corrosion, especially in northern climates.
Huge advantage. Rust was a killer for cars back then.
More importantly for design, it allowed for a more complex and fluid shape that would have been too expensive to stamp in steel.
Right. Fiberglass lets you do curves and shapes that are really hard or costly with metal stamping dies.
This gave Loewy's team an incredible amount of freedom to sculpt the car's unique, flowing lines, creating a body that would have been cost-prohibitive with traditional methods.
And the inside was pretty cool too, right? Aircraft inspired.
Yes. Inside, the cockpit was inspired by aircraft, featuring an array of toggle switches and a full complement of gauges, emphasizing its high performance, driver-focused intentions, a truly modern touch for the time.
Yeah, lots of dials, overhead switches in some models. It felt special, not like your average sedan.
But the Avanti's brilliance wasn't just skin deep or even cabin deep. It had significant technological prowess beyond aesthetics.
Okay, what else did it have going for it?
It was a true pioneer, becoming one of the first American production cars to feature front disc brakes.
Disc brakes. In '62, that was cutting edge for an American car. Most were still using drums all around. Big performance advantage.
Today, we take disc brakes for granted as standard, but in 1962, this was cutting-edge technology, offering vastly superior stopping power and fade resistance compared to traditional drum brakes, especially for a performance car.
Definitely needed if you had some power under the hood. Did it?
Yes. And it also included an integrated roll bar, a structural safety feature subtly built into the roofline, which was, again, far ahead of its time for a production car, and demonstrated a commitment to passenger protection that was rare outside of racing.
Interesting. So style, innovation, and some forward-thinking safety. Okay, now about that power.
Performance-wise, the Avanti was a genuine road warrior. It was powered by a modified 289 cubic inch V8 engine, which, in its standard form, was already respectable. Studebaker called it the jet thrust V8.
The 289, yeah, solid engine. But they had a hotter version, didn't they?
They did. The supercharged R2 model, equipped with a Paxton supercharger, was a truly formidable machine, pushing out a potent 289 horsepower.
Supercharged from the factory. That was pretty exotic for an American car then.
This made it capable of speeds over 120 miles per hour and gave it incredible acceleration. To further cement its performance credentials, it went on to break 29 world speed records at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, that iconic proving ground for speed.
29 records. Wow. So these weren't just pretty cars, they were serious performers, designed to compete with the best of American and European sports coupes, embodying a genuine spirit of engineering excellence.
Yet, despite all this brilliance, the stunning design, the fiberglass body, the disc brakes, the supercharged power, the speed records, we arrive at the paradox of success and failure. The Avanti could not save Studebaker.
Yeah, that's the sad part of the story. All that effort, all that innovation, and the company still went under just a few years later.
This amazing car, this desperate gamble, ultimately failed to reverse the company's fortunes. What went wrong? It sounds like they had everything right.
Well, it seems like a combination of factors ultimately played into its demise, despite its inherent brilliance. Firstly, there were production issues with the fiberglass body.
The innovative material came with challenges.
Apparently so. While innovative, fiberglass manufacturing was new and challenging to work with on a mass scale, especially for a company maybe not fully equipped for it. This led to delays and quality control headaches that hampered initial deliveries and frustrated early buyers.
That's tough. You launch a Halo car, you need it to be right, and you need it on time. Delays kill buzz.
Exactly. But more critically, there was a general lack of consumer confidence in the struggling company.
Right. People were probably thinking, great car, but will Studebaker even be around to service it or provide parts in a few years?
Precisely. By 1963, Studebaker's fate seemed sealed, and consumers were hesitant to invest their hard-earned money in a car from an automaker whose future was so uncertain. Studebaker ultimately ceased all automotive production shortly thereafter in 1966.
A real shame. But the Avanti story doesn't quite end there, does it?
No. Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and it's a testament to the power of design. The Avanti story didn't end with Studebaker's collapse.
What happened?
It's a truly remarkable testament to the car's timeless and enduring design, that a group of Studebaker dealers bought the rights and tooling, producing the Avanti II and subsequent models for decades.
Wait, the dealers bought the car? Like the whole production line?
Essentially, yes. Nate Altman and Leo Newman, former dealers, bought the name, the tooling, the factory space, and just kept building them, initially with Corvette engines. This is truly remarkable, a car outliving the company that created it, maintained by a passionate group who simply believed in its vision.
That is incredible. Talk about belief in a product. How long did that last?
For decades, the Avanti II and later versions were built, albeit in small numbers, by various entities well into the 2000s.
Wow. It is a unique example of design having a life of its own, proving that a truly exceptional form can transcend its original corporate context and even its creators.
This continued production, even by a smaller operation, is a clear indicator of the car's inherent appeal and its iconic status. What's fascinating here is how a car can possess such design integrity that it outlives the company that created it, echoing through different eras.
What does that tell you about the power of design and innovation when it truly resonates with a specific audience?
It suggests that some ideas, some forms, are simply too good to die. They find a way to persist, even if just for a dedicated few. Passion can keep things alive.
All right, from a sleek, record-breaking coupe born of desperation, we now pivot to something a little different. Our third unsung legend is the AMC Pacer.
Ah, the Pacer, the flying fishbowl. Definitely unforgettable, maybe not always for the right reasons at the time.
To truly appreciate this car, we have to set the scene in the mid-1970s. The American automotive landscape was grappling with a huge seismic shift. The energy crisis.
Oh yeah, gas lines, rationing, the sudden realization that maybe those giant land yachts weren't such a great idea anymore. Panic in Detroit.
Gas prices were soaring, lines at the pump were long, and consumers were desperately demanding smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. This was a massive shift in what people wanted, moving away from the land yachts of the previous decade, and Detroit was scrambling to respond.
And AMC, always the underdog, decided to try something really, really different.
And in this chaotic environment, American Motors Corporation, AMC, which at the time was the last independent American automaker, responded with a car so quirky and radical that it became an instant cultural icon for better or worse. The Pacer.
Designed by Richard Teague, who did some other cool AMC stuff too, like the Javelin.
Right. Chief stylist Richard Teague had a very specific, ambitious vision for the Pacer. It was to be the first wide, small car.
Wide but small. Sounds like a contradiction, but I get the idea. Big car feel, small car footprint.
Exactly. The goal was ambitious to provide the comfort and spaciousness of a full-size vehicle in a compact, fuel-efficient package. This was AMC's innovative attempt to carve out its own niche in a rapidly changing market, aiming to give American drivers everything they wanted in a smaller footprint.
Okay, so brake convention offers something unique. How did they try to achieve that?
And when we talk about striking, unique, and genuinely practical features, the Pacer had them in spades. Its most famous, or perhaps infamous, feature was its enormous glass surface area, a full 37% of the car's body.
37% glass. That's insane. No wonder they called it the fishbowl. You could see everything.
This gave it its famous fishbowl nickname, and while it certainly made it distinctive, it also provided an airy, open feeling inside, as well as exceptional, almost panoramic visibility. Imagine driving around with that much glass around you.
Yeah, great visibility. Probably felt huge inside. Also probably got pretty hot in the summer sun, though.
That was a common complaint, yes. But beyond the sheer amount of glass, the Pacer was actually a pioneer of the cab-forward design.
Cab forward. Explain that a bit.
This is a concept where the passenger cabin is pushed forward, often making the windshield quite large and steeply raked, close to the front bumper, thereby maximizing interior space while shortening the hood. Think about how much room is inside compared to its overall length.
Okay, pushing the wheels out to the corners, short overhangs, maximizing the passenger compartment.
Exactly. What's truly fascinating is that this design philosophy wouldn't become mainstream until the 1990s, with cars like Chrysler's LH platform, think the original Dodge Intrepid, or Chrysler Concorde, which finally brought that spacious, wheels at the corners look to the masses.
So the Pacer was doing the cab forward thing almost 20 years early? Wow, that was ahead of its time.
Truly ahead of its time in terms of packaging efficiency and interior volume. And for a unique nod to practicality, it had asymmetrical doors. The passenger door was a full 4 inches longer than the driver's.
Right, I remember that. Why did they do that? Seemed odd.
This might seem odd, but it was specifically designed to ease entry and exit into the back seat, especially useful in tight parking spots or when loading children or packages. The idea was you'd usually load passengers from the curbside.
Huh. Okay, that actually makes sense. A thoughtful touch really highlights their focus on interior comfort and accessibility,
Yeah.
even if it looked a bit strange.
But sadly, this innovative spirit and practical foresight were often misunderstood or overshadowed by its unusual looks.
Yeah, people couldn't get past the shape, the width, the glass.
Yeah.
It was just so different.
The Pacer's styling was so distinctive, so different from conventional automotive aesthetics, that it became the primary focus, often at the expense of recognizing its underlying ingenuity and clever packaging. And then there were the practical shortcomings that undercut its initial promise.
The Achilles heel. What were the problems?
Precisely. While the concept of a wide, small car with lots of interior space was brilliant, the execution was hampered by the realities of AMC's limited resources. Its heavy body and an outdated, thirsty six-cylinder engine meant it was neither as fuel-efficient nor as zippy as its import competitors.
Launched during an energy crisis, but it wasn't actually that fuel efficient. That's bad timing.
Terrible timing. AMC simply didn't have the budget to develop a lightweight, truly fuel-efficient engine that could effectively move the Pacer's relatively heavy structure, especially with all that glass. It was supposed to get a Wankel rotary engine initially, which fell through.
The rotary connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, GM canceled their Wankel project and AMC was counting on that. So they had to stuff in their old inline six. Heavy, not very powerful, and not efficient.
Exactly. This meant it couldn't deliver on the promise of efficiency that the market was so desperately demanding due to the energy crisis. Critics and consumers were confused by its strange proportions, and despite a strong initial showing in 1975, sales quickly dwindled as its thirst for fuel became apparent.
Yeah, it looked like an economy car, but didn't really perform like one. That disconnect probably hurt it a lot.
It's a sad trajectory for such a visionary design. By the time it was discontinued in 1980, the Pacer had unfortunately become a punchline in American car culture.
Yeah, it was the butt of jokes for years. The weird car, The loser mobile in movies sometimes.
It was easy fodder for jokes, a symbol of automotive awkwardness, often seen as a misstep rather than a brave experiment.
But history's been a bit kinder, maybe.
However, in retrospect, and this is where history often gets to have the last laugh, many of its concepts, the cab-forward design, an emphasis on interior space in a small car, and a focus on visibility, were prescient and would later be adopted by the industry.
It's a classic case of innovation being ahead of its time. The market simply wasn't ready to accept such a radical departure from traditional automotive aesthetics, even if the underlying ideas were incredibly sound and practical.
And then there's the pop culture angle.
Ah, yes. Wayne's World, the Mirthmobile.
What's truly fascinating here is how its enduring fame in pop culture, especially its starring role in the film Wayne's World, ironically cemented its place as a lovable, if misunderstood, automotive legend.
That movie totally changed how a generation saw the Pacer. It went from being just weird to being, like, ironically cool. Party on, Pacer.
That comedic portrayal, years later, gave it a second life and a new, more affectionate appreciation, proving that sometimes being weird can eventually make you iconic.
So what does this all mean for you? The Pacer reminds us that sometimes we don't fully appreciate innovation until years later, or until it's presented through a completely different lens, like pop culture.
It's a powerful lesson in delayed gratification, both for the innovators who see the future and for the audience who eventually catches up. It challenges us to look beyond immediate appearances and consider the deeper, more lasting impact of design.
Yeah, don't judge a book or a car solely by its cover, right?
Yeah.
There might be some really smart ideas inside that weird package.
So we've journeyed through the stories of the Tucker 48, the Studebaker Avanti, and the AMC Pacer. Bringing these distinct narratives together, we can clearly see some compelling common threads that weave through their very different timelines and struggles.
Definitely. Despite being very different cars from different eras, there's a pattern.
All three represent a distinct period of bold experimentation and a willingness to defy the conventions of the time. They weren't just tinkering around the edges, they were tearing up the established blueprint and starting fresh, driven by an unshakable belief in their own vision.
Absolutely. None of them played it safe. They took big swings, creatively and technologically.
That's absolutely right. A defining characteristic for each of these cars was innovation truly ahead of schedule. Each vehicle featured designs, safety features, or engineering concepts that were, without a doubt, years ahead of their time.
Yeah, you tick them off. Tucker's safety focus and swiveling light, Avanti's fiberglass and disc brakes, Pacer's cab-forward packaging, all stuff that eventually became more common, but they did it way early.
These weren't incremental improvements, they were genuine leaps forward, pushing the very boundaries of automotive engineering and design.
But those leaps often came with significant challenges from external forces, didn't they? It wasn't just about building a great car.
No, it wasn't. For the Tucker 48, it was a system unwilling to embrace change, actively working against it through legal and political pressure.
The establishment pushback.
For the Avanti, it was a combination of tricky production issues with new materials and the devastating instability of its parent company, whose financial woes simply couldn't be overcome.
Internal problems and bad timing, essentially.
And for the Pacer, it was a fundamental misunderstanding by the market, coupled with engine limitations that undercut its potential for fuel efficiency, which was its initial promise.
The market wasn't ready, and the execution wasn't quite there because of resource constraints. So, different pressures, but always an uphill battle.
There was always an uphill battle, often against forces far greater than just the technical hurdles of building a car.
And this leads us to the stark reality of the cost of nonconformity. Being different is risky.
It is. Their failure to achieve the widespread commercial success of their mainstream counterparts was often a direct consequence of their radical nature, not a flaw in their core innovation.
They were too different, introduced too soon, or too challenging for the market or the industry to readily accept. Maybe they were too innovative for their own good, commercially speaking.
This highlights that commercial success isn't always the sole arbiter of a product's inherent value or its impact on future developments. Sometimes the pioneering spirit itself is the true success.
Yeah, their influence might be subtle, maybe inspiring other designers later, or proving a concept that someone else eventually makes work.
So let's delve deeper into the why behind them being unsung. Why aren't these vehicles universally celebrated in the same way as, say, a Ford F-Series or a Volkswagen Beetle? What prevented them from crossing that threshold into mainstream legend status?
Good question. They're legendary among car buffs, maybe, but not household names.
It really boils down to a confluence of factors, a perfect storm that even brilliant design couldn't overcome. Firstly, market readiness is crucial.
Right. As we saw with the Pacer, even brilliant ideas can stumble if consumers aren't prepared for such a radical shift in aesthetics or concept, even if the underlying logic is sound. People often like familiar.
Secondly, financial backing is paramount. Smaller, independent players simply couldn't sustain the fight against established giants or overcome the inherent challenges of launching revolutionary products on a shoestring budget, unlike the big three with their deep pockets.
Yeah, innovation costs money. R&D, tooling, marketing. The independents just didn't have the war chest.
And finally, the formidable power of established players often stifled true disruption, as vividly demonstrated by the relentless targeting of Preston Tucker.
They could use their influence, their dealer networks, their political connections. It wasn't always a level playing field.
These aren't just stories of individual cars. They're compelling case studies in the complex interplay of innovation, economics, power dynamics, and societal acceptance.
Absolutely. And these stories offer some profound, enduring lessons for innovation and disruption in any field, not just automotive.
What are some of those key lessons, do you think?
Well, first, they remind us of the immense courage to defy. It takes real bravery for individuals and smaller companies to risk everything on an unproven, radical idea, especially when going against titans who control vast resources and influence.
It's a testament to belief over pragmatism. You have to admire the guts.
That courage, however, must often contend with the critical factor of market timing.
Ah, yes, being too early can be just as bad as being too late.
Exactly. Even the most brilliant ideas can struggle if the market, the necessary infrastructure, or even consumer psychology isn't quite ready to receive them. The Pacer's cab-forward design was genius, but it would take another 2 decades for the public to fully embrace it.
It's a delicate balance of being innovative enough to lead, but not so far ahead that you lose your audience entirely or become a historical footnote.
And ultimately, these stories force us to fundamentally question how we define success.
Good point. Is it just sales numbers?
Is it just about sales volume, market share, and immediate profitability? Or is it about something deeper, something more enduring? Is it about influencing future design, paving the way for technologies that eventually become standard, and inspiring future generations of innovators, even if your own venture didn't break sales records?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these stories aren't just about cars. They're about the often rocky, frequently misunderstood path of any true innovation, regardless of the industry.
They remind us that history is often kind to those who fail spectacularly in pursuit of a dream, especially if that dream eventually becomes reality in a different form. Their failure might have laid the groundwork for someone else's success.
This raises an important question for all of us as consumers and as participants in an evolving world. How do we as a society recognize and nurture groundbreaking ideas, even when they challenge our assumptions or look a little unconventional at first?
Yeah, are we open enough to the truly new? Or do we instinctively resist things that are too different? It's a challenge to be more open to what lies beyond the familiar, to be patient with new concepts, and to appreciate the difficult journey of those who dare to innovate.
We've taken a deep dive today into some truly remarkable machines: the safety-first Tucker 48, the stunning Studebaker Avanti, and the visionary AMC Pacer.
3 very different cars, 3 fascinating stories of ambition and struggle.
Each a testament to ingenuity, each facing its own unique battles against the status quo, and each leaving an indelible mark on automotive history despite their initial commercial struggles.
They definitely left their mark, even if it wasn't always on the sales charts.
These unsung legends remind us that history is always richer and far more complex than the common narratives often suggest. It's filled with heroes and daring innovators who chose to dream differently, who challenged what was accepted,
And who, even in their commercial failure, laid crucial groundwork for the future that we often take for granted today. They are a powerful argument that not all legends are found on the bestseller list.
Well said. So as you go about your day, perhaps consider this. What other unsung legends exist in the world around you, in technology, art, or even everyday life, just waiting to be appreciated for their foresight and boldness?
What ideas today might be considered quirky or misunderstood, only to be hailed as genius decades from now? It makes you think, doesn't it?
We hope this deep dive encourages you to look a little closer, to question the familiar, and to truly appreciate the spirit of innovation in all its varied and often surprising forms.